even showing these houses to black people? How did you get that car when your credit score is only a 2? It's not because you're so smart. It's not because you're so gifted. It's nothing but the grace of God. Yes. And when they took the stone away, Jesus began to pray. I'm here to tell you that we need to pray more. But Jesus says that he's saying this prayer so that the people would know that God sent him. You need to know that some folks will only believe in you when they see the results that you can provide. Some people, y'all remember doubting Thomas in the Bible, only believe when they see for themselves. And Jesus calls out with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. The dead man came out, his hands and his feet wrapped with strips of linen. He had a cloth wrapped around his face. And Jesus said, take off the grave clothes and let him go. In other words, I know that you've been in this tomb sitting down for a long time. But now it's time to move forward. I know that 4 days after being embalmed has wrecked your finances. I know that people have moved on with their lives without you. I know that there's no way that you're supposed to bounce back from this, but I still see a lot of life in you. I still see a lot of ministry in you. Lazarus, it's time to move forward. But church, in order to move forward, you have to do a few things. The first thing that you need to do is get some praying people in your life. The best thing that has happened during this pandemic is that we have become a praying church. Every day at 7 p.m., our prayer line is busy and we go to God in prayer. This morning, our text demonstrates that something happens when the people of God get together and pray. Situations begin to change. Atmospheres begin to shift. I don't know about you, but that's good news for me today, because I haven't always been what I was supposed to have been. I haven't always used the best judgment, but I'm so glad that I had a mother and a father and a wife and a church that prayed for me. Is there anybody here on the prayer line this morning that's glad that someone took the time and prayed for you? Then you ought to go ahead and bless the name of Jesus in your home right now. Prayer changes things. Situations begin to change once we start praying. And Lazarus has two sisters, Martha and Mary. And they decided that they would stand in the gap and pray for their brother, where they knew that their brother was in trouble and couldn't pray for himself. So they prayed for their brother, but they also knew that they needed help from a greater source than themselves. And sometimes in life, you'll find that you have done all that you can possibly do, but it's still not enough to fix your situation. Have I got a witness this morning? Maybe you've given your life, given 199%. You raised your children to be great people, but they still ended up in jail or hooked on drugs. These sisters realized that they needed help from a man named Jesus. And we can learn from Mary and Martha today. When you've done all that you can passably do, just call on the name of Jesus. You need help from on high, then open up your mouth and call on Jesus. I can recall watching Superman when I was a boy. And when things got too much for people to handle, they would say, "This looks like a job for Superman." The challenges that we have at Trinity: a new water problem in our furnace room, our furnace going out on us and trying to get it back working, trying to clean our building to be able to open back up from COVID-19, an unfinished kitchen project, shrinking income, and no savings. Yes, it looks like a job for Superman. Over at St. Matthew's, we've got a closed building when most of our income came from renting our facilities. We got a growing $16,000 PSE&G bill. All of this under the pressure of the statistics that 1/3 of our churches will close for good during this pandemic because they won't be able to financially cut it. This looks like a job for Superman. There are times in life when things become too much for us to bear. And we wish we could say that this looks like a job for Superman. But then we realize that that only works in the movies. In real life, Superman doesn't come to Newark, New Jersey. But if you call on Jesus, he will show up and he will show out. Jesus shows up in Newark, New Jersey. That's why the songwriter can say, "Can't nobody do you like Jesus? Can't nobody do you like the Lord?" Have I got a witness this morning? You can call him in the morning. You can call him in the evening. You can call him in your midnight hour. Have you ever had your back up against the wall and you didn't see a way out, but you opened up your mouth and called on Jesus right on time? The songwriter says he might not come when you call him, but he's always right on time. St. Matthew's, I want you to know, hang on in there. Be encouraged because Jesus showed up and gave us $7,000 from the Small Business Administration this week. Somebody ought to give God glory. It's time to move forward.
Yes, it is.
The next thing that you must do is recognize your limitations. Mary and Martha understood the necessity to reach out for help when the situation was beyond their control. One of the things that we need to learn from this text is